Hello. This is going to be a little bit of a different tour of La Ronde, and mainly a companion piece for those of you that may have watched my Expo 67 grounds tour, which is not too far from here on the same island. What are we doing? We're going to do an entire walk of the La Ronde grounds from the back entrance to the front, and we're going to highlight some Expo 67 attractions that are still here to actually visualize or actually enjoy. Some of them are some rides that have been here since that day, and some are just land formations, construction, construction, immeubles, very bad French. But the point is to sort of highlight stuff that's still here that you can come if you're into history and check out and sort of point out while you're in La Ronde. So let's have a little bit of a journey à La Ronde 67. The majority of this area that we're in now makes up the Swiss Village, as I believe it was originally called. I'm going to make a lot of mistakes during this particular journey. A lot of copyrighted music going to be playing as well. But the point being, this is the most thematically ornate area of the park, and because of that, it was probably originally intended to be a big showpiece for 67 and ended up as part of a themed area here in La Ronde, which we're now suddenly leaving, and then you hit Super Ménage right over here. No, that's not Super Ménage. That is a coaster that is long gone from here now. That's Andorre. Behind me is the original rear entrance to La Ronde and to a wide swath of parking that is still available on the other side of the island, or basically the northern tip of the island. This is the actual station for the mini rail, which if you come here on a busier day, which I don't know if I necessarily want to do that, it does still operate occasionally with the condition of, say, rides within La Ronde and the situation with COVID. I believe that a lot of rides may be under pressure, whether or not they're going to continue to be operating in the near future. This ride, however, I believe is protected. I shot some footage of a tarp over a particular engineering area or repair bay that they've put up clearly recently, and I think the intention of that is to look at the ride and maybe get it operable again. One would hope, because it dominates the skyline throughout the park, and if it were operating, would definitely be a feature that I think a lot of people would enjoy riding still to this day. We're going to move on now down to this area, with La Ronde not being that busy today because of the rain. We have the benefit of moving around more freely than I think we ever have experienced here before. The main basin of the lake of the park here on the opposite side where Andorre is. Why are we here? Well, a rather tragic event happened here, which I don't look over anything when it comes to park history, be it good things or bad. And unfortunately, something very bad happened here on the lake in the early 70s. There used to be a ferry that crossed from that side of the water to this side. I believe that the original port was where Andorre is today. There was a day on a busy summer in August, I believe it was August, that the boat capsized and 3 people drowned. Unfortunately, the park carried on operations, but most people would think that that was a different time where that kind of was the case. And having done some research on Canada's Wonderland, they are not innocent of doing that as well. So yeah, you've got unfortunate accident that happened here. But originally there was lots of water shows and displays that worked across this lake. Now it is primarily a showcase for the fireworks festival, which is very popular. There used to also be a cable car that went over the water as well and had a station at the second entrance that we just passed. However, that is not there anymore, but the original station on that side is. It's kind of weird. And as far as I understand it, that building is protected, but we'll get there later. This building behind us, however, is the Star Garden, or Jardin des Étoiles, which, you know, Theater of the Stars, basically. It isn't really used anymore, because unfortunately a lot of it, detailing is not really worth the, say, honor of or honor worthy of a star, let's say. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. Jardin des Étoiles is now used for haunt events, and this is basically the haunt area of La Ronde itself. Because not only do you have 2 haunt attractions that go in here year-round, basically, but you also have Maison Rouge. Which is just over there. So yeah, this is one thing I definitely want to check out. I said this would probably be my last trip to La Ronde for a while, but if COVID allows the scare event to happen this year, then I might come back for that. I do know this is also an original restaurant for La Ronde that unfortunately due to COVID has seen a couple of better days, I think. And then if you go I got a little distracted there because there's a path there, and this path is really to lead you to the dock that's on the other side there. I'm tempted to go down it because there's some great shots you can get of other things, but passage interdit means you can't do it, so we ain't. This place is really starting to clear out right now. Really getting over stuff staring at us, but it is what it is. Carrying on, the area that we're just passing now is the main games area. There's lots of water getting on the lens, so I gotta keep doing this. But yeah, this is obviously not open right now because the park is not nearly at capacity. And generally, I think only half of these gaming stalls tend to be open at any given moment. So at the end of the day, it's only what they can afford to open that will be open. So this is kind of a weird area of the park with Le Monstre not actually running. Because with Le Monstre not running, you basically have a situation where it's a dead zone. There's nothing happening here. There's nothing for people to actually do. And it's a fairly significant area of the park, which I think is protected somewhat, which means that it requires a bit of rejuvenation. But how they're going to manage that, I'm not entirely sure. Le Monstre has been highlighted in many of my vlogs, not been running for some time. It appears it won't be running for some time. So we'll have a quick look at the signage of Le Monstre, but at the same time, there's not much to look at here, other than the fact that earlier on in its life, the ride was functioning. Now we just have like these dormant attractions. Like if you come here at any time this year, that's what you're going to see, because neither of those rides are going to be running this year. So right in the center of the park, you have a sort of a dead section, which is kind of unusual. Now when you come out over here, you're not really doing, this whole area was originally filled with Midway style and Carnival style attractions. It's now significantly changed. This is Avenue Adventure that we're in right now. It's a very more 21st century section of the park versus what it was in the past. But essentially what they did with La Ronde initially for Expo was pave a giant pad, so that way they could place a lot of traveling rides. Traveling rides that they actually purchased and then allowed them to sort of spread them out in this area. Chief among them, however, and a spot that's seen much history over the years, is where the original, and now I'm going to completely lose my train of thought when I come to the actual, I've done a huge film on this thing, but the Gyrotron, which was originally right where Le Monstre is here and a little bit over on this side, it was the original chief attraction of the park when Expo opened. It is now long gone, and most people don't even know it even existed now. So it's kind of interesting to see what the park could do to rejuvenate that history, maybe with another dark ride. So now we're going to go into the Pays de Ribambelle, which is the children's section of the park. And the reason why we're doing that is because it actually was built originally with Expo 67. As you can see, this restaurant and all these fixings are part of the original construction of that area. So we're gonna go up the stairs here. You'll notice sort of like roof like this, it should be very familiar as part of like the original architecture for Expo 67. Some things, if you know what you're looking for, you'll be able to find them for sure. Chief among them, and like the biggest thorn in my side, is Choo Choo. Choo Choo is an original attraction from Expo 67. It is a family train ride through some unique sort of, I don't even know. I haven't been on it. They won't let me on the ride. I'm trying. I'm gonna smuggle a kid to come back here and get on Choo Choo. Not so sure how good it would look having a grown man desperate to get on the ride, begging every time he comes to this park. But it's kind of happened every time I've come to this park. The other ride that causes a problem as far as getting onto it, that I want to get onto more than any, would be Voyage de Mille Pattes, which is the children's coaster in this section that was designed by Aerodynamics. It is essentially one of the first tubular steel roller coasters ever built outside of the Matterhorn back in, well, we know the date, was quite a while ago. And really it's a big credit for me because it's one of the first aerodynamic coasters that still exists today. But they won't let you on it unless you have a kid. So one day I'll be able to get that credit. And this seems like a very non-descript coaster, nothing that you really think is that big of a deal. But it does represent a it's a fairly significant ride in roller coaster history. It would be nice to get on it one day. All right, we're headed out of here. My apologies for the change in video here, but it is raining, il pleut trop, and it is not really good for my camera, so I'm not going to be using that in the rain. Cell phones are more built for that. All right, so we are headed into a major place here, which is Fort Edmonton. Fort Edmonton, which we actually just passed. But this comprises Fort Edmonton as well. But the reason why it's significant is because this is basically the area that still recognizes and pays homage to the major global event that occurred here in Montreal on this very place. There's a couple of major things to look at, which is obviously Fort Edmonton Station, which is right behind me, which I've never been able to get into because the thing is never open when I come to La Ronde, but I also kind of choose to come to La Ronde on times when it's less than busy. Once the cleanup on this here chair is ready, we will have a look at Place 67. So this is the signage that sort of indicates where you are, the main sort of area that pays homage to Expo. Why is it bittersweet? Or somewhat sort of upsetting, let's say, is because of this right here, which is the most famous ride probably of Expo 67. Much to the chagrin of the constructors of the Gyrotron, but La Poutine, or Poutine, or Poutine, it's not Poutine, but kind of looks like La Poutine. La Poutine was the original log flume located where I am standing right now. In fact, this is the original lift for the ride, which they've reconstructed into sort of a memorial piece, which is great. Some of the mechanics of the ride actually are still inside that building. Not that they would really work 50 plus years after they were originally built for purpose, but the rest of the ride originally went out onto this patch of land here. It's disused now. I have said it in other vlogs and other content, but this area is ripe for a water coaster, a family boomerang, or a new flume of some sort. Something in here would be great. Sort of something thematically that would keep in line with the history of Expo over the years, or at least what has been retained over the years. Because there's some weird structures that are still here that are completely in disuse, and there are others that aren't here anymore that probably would have made more sense if they had stayed. So unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to cover that right now because we have a limited time here now. So park is about to close. I'm probably going to steal one last sneaky ride onto Viper. I've got all my ride names mixed up today. The Vampire, that's the one. But we do have another thing to check out over here, which is important, probably one of the most important buildings in the entire grounds, which is the Alkin Aquarium. It's 2 vlogs. This is the 4th vlog in 2 days, so I'm starting to lose my my ability to speak. It's raining. I don't even have my main camera on. We're doing the best we can. And there's copyrighted music in the background. But we have Route 67, which is a brand new establishment. It hasn't been open today for me, but I do like that take and sort of honoring the history of Expo with that, the name of that restaurant. Behind us here, however, is the original Alcan building. So this is the Alcan Aquarium. It was also the location. The reason why I sigh, and I'm not even going to mention why this building doesn't really exist anymore in its current or in its original use. You can obviously figure out why that is, but the circumstances behind how it originally kind of met its end, or the beginning of that process, is quite tragic because of what happened to, say, the animals or the dolphins that were originally displayed here. No wonder that Canada now has completely banned the exhibition and training and holding captive marine animals of that sort, because yeah, what happened in this building is not so cool. It's just really sad that people would put like their own financial well-being ahead of animals. which happens every single day in multitude of millions of different circumstances. But in this one, they made a direct statement and said, no, we're not going to do this. And the only people that are going to suffer are not people, but animals. Not really cool. That was a long time ago. Doesn't reflect where we are now today. But as I said, it's a very tragic outcome of circumstances. Now, we do have two more things we need to check out. There are two more things that I need to check out before we head out. But I am going to do a little ride on the Vampire because it's here. And then I will rejoin you on the way out, because this whole section originally was a water park where I'm standing right now. Besides the fact that La Cobra, the original stand-up coaster, built by Intamin, a very rare model that unfortunately isn't here anymore. Thankfully, I do have that credit, however. The footings of which are still over there, but I intercut some footage of the fact that in that area is a graveyard where a lot of old La Ronde attractions are still sort of sitting dormant today, including the boats for La Petite, and also the new attraction, Vipère, which still hasn't opened or even gone upwards. I can't say what I'm trying to say. It hasn't been built. So I'll see you in a second while I show you that footage. People coming down to this section now because I think they think that Vampire is still open, whereas other rides have closed. They are only going to be treated with vomit at the entrance. I guess someone was not impressed with the fact that the ride was closed, and a closed ride. So no point going down there. So we're going to hustle and get on our way to the other side. For the last couple of things I need to show you in relation to the history of La Ronde with Expo 67. Okay, one more thing to cover in relation to Fort Edmonton, because I feel that any of you that are watching this that actually know your stuff in relation to Expo 67 are gonna give me flack. And I kind of miss my favorite building left over from that age. So we're going back in, but the reason why I need to point that out is because the building here on my left, the saloon, is really kind of the place that I go to every time to come enjoy like a beer when I still have enjoyed beers, and also sometimes a meal. Pretty affordable, to be honest, because they don't really serve that many people here. But all these buildings that you see around us, including the fort, which would make sense, and all the others that comprise Fort Edmonton, including the main one, which is this animatronic stage show that I don't know whether or not it dates from Expo 67 originally, but now forms like the grand sort of marquee of the poutine shop here at La Ronde. And this is the main poutine shop, so no better place for it, right? So we're gonna get out of here. The saloon is, I don't know if they intended it that way, but now the saloon definitely gives you that tavern atmosphere that you would expect living in a mining town with limited options and limited sanitation standards, let's say. I'm sure it's way different in there right now. I'm not even gonna bother to go in because of the fact that COVID makes that a bit difficult. But at the end of the day, you got a very dirty and in need of the saloon needs to be renovated in some fashion. I don't care if it's protected or not. because it's just not, it doesn't do what it's supposed to, which is to provide a venue for a stage show. Stage shows don't seem to be part of the mix when it comes to theme parks nowadays, or amusement parks. So why it's still here, I'm not sure. Not sure whether or not Six Flags is really interested in putting on live entertainment in this park ever. So when it comes down to it, it just sits there dormant, and probably will for a long time because it's protected. This might be familiar to some people, other than the fact that it is the statue or sculpture that you encounter when you enter La Ronde, but it also dates from the original time of which it was created, of which Expo 67 occurred. We're at the end of the vlog, but I'm trying my best because we got a lot of stuff to cover here at the entrance. Just a little further beyond, to the right of the statue, is the original the original cable car building that would take you across the lake, as mentioned earlier. It's still here, even though I've never seen it operable. I've never seen the towers for the cable cars. The first time I came to this park was 20 years ago, and there was no sign of it then either. So this building kind of just stays as like a maintenance shed now for the park itself. But you'll notice from the lighting marquee at the top of it, and also just the general sort of look of the building, that it definitely comprises or is an element of that era. So just waiting for all of the people to scroll by here before we actually present this building, which we can now. There it is. Now the biggest thing about it though is it takes up so much space that if it is protected and it is a listed structure, it's kind of unfortunate because you have a very vast area here that La Ronde could do something with, but that unfortunately is currently not available. You still even have the path here. Like, it's been left intact as it was. So it's interesting to see what they do with this, if they can. I heard from some comments that they do have a plan on doing that at some point in the future. Well, let's hope, because I think this could be a very interesting section. As much as I don't want to see buildings from Expo 67 lost at this point, there is an element of the fact that if they aren't really maintained and they don't really serve their purpose anymore, then it begs the question, why bother keeping them then? Because they're not going to be reused. And this one in particular, there's no chance it'll ever see life as anything else. It's also not architecturally unique, so without some sort of wow factor when it comes to architecture, I don't really know why you would keep that in place, in situ, yada yada. Another vlog, I had mentioned that the Expo Express terminus was in this location. In fact, it is at the main gate of La Ronde, which is what I was trying to highlight a little bit earlier here. As you can see, the fleur-de-lis on the side of the building indicates, well, you're in Quebec. But besides that, this used to be the main station for people leaving La Ronde to go back to the park, or go back to Expo, or back to the city, or vice versa. But at the same time, when Expo was running, La Ronde was a nightlife place. So you have to imagine a completely different experience here at La Ronde at that time. Lots of bars, nightclub institutions, things for people to do. It had 56 million people that came to Expo during its original year. So this was basically a hub of activity late at night. So till 2:30 in the morning, this park was open every night to provide entertainment for people after the main grounds of Expo closed at 10 p.m. So you can only imagine what it might have been like. And just like that, we have catapulted into another season. It is fall, but now we rejoin for the Expo tour for a couple other things that I missed on my first initial pass through, and also the collection of stuff that, while I'm here enjoying their Fright Fest or Festival de Frayeur, we'll have a couple looks at things like the original lake that you see behind me. We also have an improved camera so we can get better shots of things. Now we're gonna go through some of the features of, say, this side, the north side of the park features this original Swiss village that unfortunately had like a Matterhorn type structure up on the opposite side where Goliath stands today. However, as I much admire always the construction of this particular area, and you can obviously see the beauty of it, as I think I've gotten this shot numerous times, it all clearly dates from that period. As you can see, there are paths that are no longer accessible in this section. In fact, if you do look for it, there are a lot of hidden gems in this area. There are pockets of original stuff like these benches which date from that time. In fact, this park is littered with stuff like this, historical items that just sort of are part of when it was built and haven't been changed ever since. Now, this area does incorporate rather effectively two significant attractions, that being Dragon and Ondor right behind me. Ondor was built into the lake itself with landfill, whereas Dragon was built into its own purpose-built facility as well. They're both located what is by the least used gate in La Ronde, which is the north gate where we're standing at now. I've never even been through this gate. That's how rare it is to actually get through it. It is only when you're here on a busier day, generally in the summer, that they open this area. That being said, they do have it set up for the haunt event, so I would presume on the busier days later into the season, it may open up as well. The benefit for being in that section is that you get to see some great views of Goliath on that side, and also that whole area was originally parking for Expo, and also was the original entrance for La Ronde itself, if you just wanted to come here for the nightlife when the park was open till 2 a.m. back in the day. So this entrance, as I said, unfortunately you cannot get out, even though it says au revoir. And as you can see, it is set up for the haunt. However, we can't get in there today. This building is also a station for the monorail, which is directly above us. Another thing that I can't seem to get any access to. Only on busier days does it run, mainly in the summer. It being the pandemic, it's understandable that they don't really have a full complement of, say, staff to run all these attractions, and that's a pretty staff-heavy attraction anyway, so that is understandable. We continue through this Swiss village. As you can see, it's grown in brilliantly. But we're now going to be going to some areas that aren't from that era as the haunt season is on. A lot of eateries that you have that aren't really being used and now used for mainly storage space. This particular area seems to be full of those. And also there's an access point to the marina, which is just down here, which I really should just go down, because if I go down there, I'll be able to get all that great coverage of Goliath. Security's tight here, La Ronde, so obviously not going to be doing that. But as you can see, yes, there is an original building from the Expo days here, just sitting dormant. A lot of these buildings are, as far as I understand, protected, much like the original chairlift building on the opposite side of the park, as it is beyond use, much like this building is. I don't know what this is for. It's some random tent. The access point was from the other side, which I thought you couldn't actually get into, but turns out this is open. I'm not really sure for what for. There's obviously places to put things. It's like a picnic area of some sort. So yeah, in case you're interested in a picnic here in a random tent here at La Ronde, you're welcome to it. All these buildings that you see here do date from the original Expo 67 era, as were the original Midway and Concourse buildings have remained intact, which are these corrugated steel buildings next to Le Monstre. Now, Le Monstre did not actually exist at that time. There was instead a Russian mountain coaster, I believe bought by Zier, but stay tuned for a vignette about that. So we get out of this area, you really know what is original to the park based on these concrete placements, as a lot of this construction, especially this concrete, as you can tell from the other side at Parc Jean Drapeau, dates from the Expo era. That said, this original station building does still exist, as it's the Carnival or Midway station building. It actually is only on the other side of a couple meters down the Fort Edmonton station. It's an interesting way that this place was laid out, with plenty of spots to get on and off for the monorail, which I really hope that one day I get to do before it's decommissioned, because it can't be that long before it is. It doesn't look like it's really in the state of running for another 50 years, that's for sure. So I really do hope I manage to get onto it at some point. All right, I didn't get my coffee, so I'll be joining you in a second as we head into Fort Edmonton, which I've already covered. But as you can see, the railing for the monorail does not look like it should be in the greatest of shape. But I'm still hoping one day we'll get on that thing. Jardin des Étoiles. Built for Expo 67 as one of the premier, if not the premier venue for La Ronde itself, of which you had live stage shows and performers play. Regretfully, I've never been in this theater when it was actually a theater. Currently, it is now a permanent fixture for the haunt events. If you want to see what these were about, unfortunately I can't take you inside, although I did experience both of these haunted houses yesterday, and if you want my review on them, definitely check out the vlog from yesterday. For District 510, which was a pretty decent, I apologize for the squeaking, a pretty decent scare maze. and Cauchemar, which was an excellent scare maze. This facility is now used for 2 attractions for the scare event only. You regretfully get no impression of what it's like inside there when you're actually doing the haunted houses. The theater has been long removed, so you're just basically stuck trying to imagine what it might have looked like at some point. But I'll include some images of the theater itself as they're readily available on the internet anyhow. We're here during the haunt event. Maison Rouge, as it was formerly known as, is now Circus Diabolique. 3-2. It's an alright haunted house, but more specifically, while this particular building looks like it's temporary, it's been here I think almost 30 years now. There are many original 2 Expo 67 buildings in this section, many of which you can't actually access, regretfully. But you can get up to the stage for Agora, which happens to be just over here. Now this was originally, as far as I understand, a marine exhibit, but now it is a theater for what is being told to me a very impressive stage show. Most of the center section and the original midway of La Ronde does not actually date from Expo 67. The reason why is because this whole area behind me was originally just one giant tarmac, of which they could put the rides that were, at the time, most manufacturers created temporary carnival rides for the majority. There weren't that many theme parks in 1967, so having like a bespoke ride in this area didn't really make sense. Now you have a whole section that they could basically rebuild over the years and kind of add some theming to, which they haven't really done other than keep that carnival aspect of it, which really should be the case because that's what the park was about originally, so I'm glad that that's been retained. I'm pretty sure I covered this the last time I was here, but the Alcan building, which is the original Alcan Aquarium, we have to do a little bit of a vignette about, because unfortunately the atmosphere suits the history of this particular building and a very unfortunate incident that happened here and really spelled the end of the dolphin show. Okay, so we've come back here to the Jean Drapeau metro stop. First wind of the day that I felt. To wrap up, it's obviously much later and I enjoyed the rest of my day at La Ronde for the most part, other than a little bit of a security incident, i.e. security saying, hey, what are you doing? Why are you filming? And me being like, I film here all the time and I communicate with you guys and you don't ever actually communicate back other than the last minute, weeks after I visited, and saying, I hope you had a good time. So I hope you had a good time watching the various vlogs that it took in order to capture everything from here at La Ronde as far as its Expo history. Also, if you haven't, check out the vlog that I did from this entire park, covering all the Expo area, all the way in the back there, that this park comprises, as it was built originally for that event. We're gonna now just go into the metro, as I'm gonna probably do another impromptu video. I said I would check out Picnic Electronique as well, which is banging on in the background. There's so much, I lost my train of thought. Yeah, we're gonna go check that out. We'll have one final look here at the crazy rave going on just over that hill. Believe it or not, it's also Osheaga weekend on the other side of the hill over there. So there's various things going on. I do know that in order to get into the picnic, you gotta go that way. But as I started this vlog, I started a different vlog earlier today, checking out the side area of it while I was on my way to La Ronde. Am I digressing? Yes, my coffee is wearing off. Again, the majesty of this place and just the uniqueness of it, I wish was captured in La Ronde itself. The one thing I will sum up is that the majority of the experience there it feels like a lot like it was back then, minus the crowd's behavior, let's say. Just because all the fixtures and fittings mostly date from that era and haven't been fixed or changed. And the park, having been owned by Six Flags over the last 20 years, have had no attachment to that particular aspect of its history. So because of that, yeah, there's just no legacy there, is there? Instead, you just have a park that's kind of like hodgepodge, that I've said many times, just sort of slapped together without a general vision towards the future and longevity like you get with a Disney World, etc. But that being said, you at least get to experience a park much like it was back in the past.